interview, and my God, every 5 minutes the Skype would go down. So it's really hard, and compared to other countries, it's a very poor connection.
Wow, you pay $40 a month where you are for an internet connection, and pot is $25 a pound?
Right.
That's like us in New York paying $6,000 a month for, or $8,000 for an internet connection. Because a pound of pot in New York City, you know, the good stuff now is about $4,000. I was out selling Christmas cards on the street today, and somebody told me off camera that his connection that he's had for 25 years was reliably bringing things through from Mexico because they've beat down the American farmers so bad that they have to bring in things through Mexico. And he said it was the Mexican cartels that would lose if we legalized it. On the other hand, a few people were ready for the understandings that we have been learning from kind of what you were getting at, Rick, when you were telling the judge that if he didn't do the right thing, he was going to go to jail. Because everybody believes in judicial immunity, but in truth, if a judge acts unlawfully, he most certainly is liable for being sued.
Yes, of course he is.
Yeah, so...
And, I mean, these court cases I went through, I mean, certainly that judge was as guilty as sin.
Yeah.
And everybody knows it. And once the book is out there, I mean, this book, I think, is going to create quite an explosion. Because, like, I didn't pull no punches. It's all there. It's all black and white. It's all on the public record. I named them all. So they ain't going to like it too much.
That's great. We wanted to get a picture. Did you get the picture of me and Joe at our wedding and then Joe Friendly, or do you want one of all three of us?
Well, we got a whole bunch of pictures that were sent to us, but then we've been going over it. Like, Jesus, I don't know. It seems like we've proofread this damn book 30 times. But what we're coming out with somewhere close to 400 pages by the looks of things, just in written text. So, Yindrich and I have been thinking about not putting any pictures in the book at all. Although you and Joe and Joe Friendly and everyone else is mentioned, and and I talk about you in the book.
Oh, that's wonderful.
We may do the book without pictures, though. I'm not sure right now, dear.
That's good. I somehow didn't know about your Croatia seminar being up on the Internet. I got it off of Christian Loret's site, and I split it up into about 4 parts and played it on my show here at MNN. And people have, Manhattan Neighborhood Network, people have definitely appreciated it. I mean, it's so wonderful when you're in a venue like that. And I learned a lot. I learned that you had 40 strains and that you took 10 strains, and out of that you found the best ones. You said you had some strain where you would puff a joint, and before it hit your lungs, you said it was like being socked between the eyes.
It was.
But you said it was beautiful medicine. Can you talk more about what you cured with that particular strain?
Well, that was just one of the strains I was using. So you see, what I was doing a lot of my own breeding. And on average, I'd have to say, about every time I did, say, 4 different crosses, I seemed to be able to wind up with 1 out of the 4 that were really special. And I mean strong. I mean, this strain that I talked about that was so powerful that it felt like somebody punched it between the eyes before the smoke even reached your lungs. That was one of my own strains. And unfortunately, the RCMP have it now. But I've never seen, I've been smoking pot for quite a few years, and beyond that strain, I've never seen any type of pot that you didn't become accustomed to. But this stuff that I had, I smoked that for years, and you could never build up a resistance to it. Every time you went near it, you got high. And I used to make one little joint, and it used to take me all day. I mean, from the early morning to midnight. And I still couldn't smoke it all. Just one little skinny joint. I mean, this stuff was just amazing. I've been all over the world now, in many different countries, to the Cannabis Cup and everywhere else. I've never seen pot that came anywhere near that material that I was growing. I've never seen anything near the potency that material was. So that should tell you something. I mean, the most powerful strains in the world are not going to be, you can't buy them from a damn seed company somewhere. It's these little breeders like I was breeding, and most people that get into growing, they do breeding projects of their own. And they're the people, actually, that have the most potent strains on this planet. And I've been doing a bit down here. The gentleman that brought me here, or that invited me here, Tomasz, they call him. It's Thomas in our language, but Tomasz Herner. If you go on the internet, he's called the Patuca Warrior. Thomas has been down here in Honduras for 24 years now, and he's made a lot of connections. So just here about a week ago, we put a guy under treatment that he was in the Contras and all of that, a few decades ago, and he's still got the big connections in the military and everything. So he's under treatment right now, and so far he's getting good results. And he has connections right to the president. So I'm hoping once we get him fixed up a little bit more that he can arrange for us to have a meeting, and with the president and with everything else that's going on worldwide right now, in Thailand, Israel, all of these countries, they're getting into this. So I think that they just might accept it.
That's really interesting. So, Rick, do you feel that if you had the strain that you had up in Canada that the RCMP stole from you, that you would be able to have more predictable results with this person that you're working with now?
Oh, yes, much more predictable. Like I said, I had 40 strains, but out of those 40, there was about 10 that were just basically dynamite. They were so medicinal, it was just unbelievable. I mean, I had a strain of White Widow there that I used to make medicine from, and I swear to God, Paula, you could stand there and let somebody shoot you, and I don't think you would have felt it. That stuff was the greatest painkiller I ever seen. I mean, I slipped one time. I was going up the stairs, my whole backyard was full of pot, and I was going up the stairs to the deck one day, back up onto the deck, and I got about 3/4 of the way up and slipped, and I went right down the stairs on my shin. And I jumped back, when I hit the ground, I jumped back, and I got that big look on my face, like, and nothing happened. And then I was sitting there, standing there thinking, what is this? And I thought, well, maybe I didn't hurt myself so bad. And then when I pulled up my pant leg, my whole shin was skinned right to the knee. I never felt a damn thing. That's the kind of pain killing that this stuff has. And that's the reason I've told so many people that there are strains out there that, if you produce this oil, it'll kill pain that morphine won't even touch. And that's a proven fact.
Well, that's really amazing, Rick, because some strains can actually make you feel the pain more because you're more aware and you're more sensitive.
Yeah. Well, they do vary, and I mean, I have run across I did run across one strain. I won't even use this medicine. It's called Armageddon. A big scary name. But the fellow that had cancer that I had under treatment, he brought a pound of that up, and the minute he went on that oil, the cancer started coming back. So there is the odd strain out there that isn't effective, but I mean the vast majority, way up 95% or more of these heavy indica strains, and the indica sativa crosses that really have a sedative effect. Those are the ones you want for the medicine. But for God's sake, stay away from those sativas. Those things are so energizing, it's scary. I mean, you're literally, if you take a sativa oil internally, and it's a really powerful oil, it almost literally makes you vibrate. You'll go out and clean the house and wash your car and paint the barn, and you still want more to do. So that's the reason I stay away from that particular variety for making medicine, because you don't want these people that have serious illnesses energized in that way. So stick with the indicas.
That's interesting, though, because on the other hand, a lot of people have psychological problems that go hand in hand with their illness, and they feel that they're kind of not useful in society, and they become deeply depressed. So I would think that, the sativa oils might be good for the depression. Have you ever had somebody on both?
Well, no, I've stated that before. If you have usually when somebody's suffering from depression, it's because they're sick.
Right.
And, what I've seen, and usually when people get on the oils that I produce, like the heavy indica oils, that'll lift the depression very, very quickly, because in no time they start feeling better and the depression lifts. Basically the same as it does as if you used a sativa. Little tiny doses of sativa, tiny ones. If you took something like that, if somebody that was depressed, if somebody took something like that in the morning, just a little tiny dose, it would probably work good for depression. But if you take too much of it, like I said, it is energizing beyond belief. I know the first time I made a strong sativa oil, I couldn't believe the effects. You know, the indicas would just make you go lay down. The sativas, like I said, would make you go paint your house.
You know, I know of one lady who's having a very good experience on sativa oil. Everybody in her family, or lots of people, have hip replacements. And she didn't want to have a hip replacement. And she was a pot smoker, and she liked pot. So she decided to give this a shot. And she was extremely happy with the results, because within a few weeks, she was able to do exercises that she couldn't possibly have done before. I mean, I was using Michelin's research that it has some of the ingredients in the oil actually replaces calcium in the bones. And so, you know, she was a person who, you know, could afford to get the oil because it's very expensive out here. And she still feels really happy because she feels she's on her way to not only not needing a hip replacement, but so many other things the oil has fixed up. So many other things.
Well, I mean, there are sativas, Paula, that, I mean, I've smoked dozens of different types of sativa. And some of them you can produce an oil from that really doesn't have a terribly energizing effect. But still, there's a good, well, probably 50-50. I mean, about 50% of indicas will just produce an oil, to me, that is basically useless because it is too energizing. But the other 50% of sativas, you know, most today, I mean, there's been so much crossing going on over the years that you get sativas that exhibit, you know, the same, they exhibit the same things as the indicas do. I mean, that particular strain I told you about that I was growing that was so potent, that was the most potent strain I had. That was an indica sativa cross. I grew that plant many times outside. It would grow 12 to 14 feet tall. It had the long, thin fan leaves. It didn't put on humongous amounts of bud. About 5 to 6 ounces per plant was about the best you could get. But it looked for all the world like a pure sativa. And I remember the first time I grew it, I looked at it and I thought, oh, I was watching it grow, you know, and the indicas all around it were staying short, and this stuff was, you know, really shooting for the moon. And as soon as I seen it doing that, I just said, oh, God, you know, this is not going to be any good to me. But when that stuff harvested, and when I dried it and tried to smoke it, oh, yeah. So you can't go by the look of a plant, you know, because years ago, you could tell a pure indica just by the leaves. You know, the short fan leaves, broad, and the sativas, they had the long fan leaves that were very thin. It was very visible. You could tell the difference. But today you can't because of all the crossbreeding.
I see. Now, so Rick, are you saying this great strain that you had, the RCMP, took everything? They took all?
Oh, yeah. Well, they cleaned that. I haven't had that strain to work with since 2005.
Wow. So no wonder you feel extra sick at heart. That's terrible. I mean, you think if they have to be thieves, at least they could leave something for somebody who's actually helping people. Because I thought you said one of the guys who busted you came back hat in hand asking you for oil for his own sick aunt or somebody in his family.
Oh, yeah, I've treated several cops. You know, as a matter of fact, that 6 months or 7 months leading up to my Supreme Court case, the RCMP delivered all my paperwork. And all of a sudden, they were totally different. I mean, they were in my yard every second day, and every one of those officers that came to my door, they all said the same thing. I hope you win your case. And I actually had one officer come there one day, and we struck up.
Hello, Rick? Hello?
Wow, we lost a bummer.
Yeah, I guess that's that bad connection, but at least we got him a little bit.
Medical. Hello, I'm here.
Okay, Joe, why don't you talk just in case?
I don't have much to say, Rick, except I wish that we could do more to help you. If there's anything we can do, just let us know, and we're willing to do whatever we can do to help you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We totally lost him. Well, anyway, that was 15 minutes. That's all I can get on YouTube anyway.